So let's talk about an entitled attitude. I promised that I would address this. So it's a big topic. It happens to almost all of us. And if you haven't learned how to deal with that, hopefully this will help. So there's a couple of levels, in my opinion, of a entitled attitude. There's the level that is just a flat out bad attitude. They're very toxic. They are entitled in a way, they're demanding and they expect this. And it's poisonous, it's toxic. You don't want that in your company. So if it's like that, the way I deal with it is write-ups. So I printed off a few things prior to talking to you guys. And so one of these things that I would do is definitely start writing it up. Okay. So have your form. I do believe at least a version of this is in the quality driven software in the documents section, but a warning, a disciplinary form. And that it sounds simple and duh, but it really is the part that a lot of people don't do. You know, many times it's easier to deal with entitlement, as in kind of sticking our head in the sand and pretending it's not going on. And you're not happy about it, but you're not addressing it. And that's just going to create a lot of trouble. So you have to start the process of disciplining those people, because you already identified you don't want this attitude in your company. So you have to deal with it. And for us, we start with a verbal warning, but yet we document it. And then there's a written warning that's just basically says, on this date, we had a verbal warning and you were cautioned against da 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 da. On this date, I'm talking to you about this. If this happens the next time within, this time frame, then here's the consequence. So I always like to recap what's been done so far, what this occurrence was, and then what the consequence will be if this happens again within a certain time period. All right. For us, the next one would be a little more serious warning. And we are telling them that the next time we have to caution you about this, you'll be suspended. And then the final one is, of course, termination. You decide how you deal with these things, but you just have to have a process. You have to be very thorough about the way you document it. Don't just document it for yourself. Make sure the employee has addressed this with you one-on-one, and that they are fully informed that if they make these choices, this is what's going to happen. Now, there's less toxic entitlement, and I don't mind at all if in my company people question me, as long as it's done the right way. So, if they challenge me on, hey, I think I need a raise, or da da da, we will talk that out. To me, that is not entitlement. If there's a valid point to it. Now, gosh, this is so subjective, but the person who has been there a month and they're like, I need to get paid more than this. I don't get paid enough for this. That person, I would be writing up. The person which this recently happened in my company, the person who's been with me a long time and actually is kind of maxed out, and they questioned about, am I ever going to get a raise anymore? How does this not punish people who have been here a long time? So that to me is not entitlement. That is sticking up for themselves and asking in an inquisitive way, what's the process? And so we discuss it. But one that's really common in a lot of our businesses, especially more so in the maid service, I'm not sure about like lawn care and window cleaning because I think you guys tend to have fuller schedules. In maid service, I think why this happens a little more frequently is because we employ mainly females. And at least in my company, we have a lot of single moms that say they want to work full time, but they really don't want to work full time, but they want full time money. So that's a real common problem for a lot of maid services. And so this is how I like to deal with it. When we're going to assume they're hired on. We discuss the hours. Oh yeah, I'm available 8:30 to 5. Okay. So I'm going to assume we can schedule you all the way up till 5, as in your job should be done between 4 or 5. What happens is we'll have people who start saying, I have to get off earlier. I need to pick up my kids or whatever they say. Then instead of being like, they said, full time, now they're saying this, so and so. I want to shift the responsibility from we were supposed to fix it to them saying exactly what they want, and I'm going to make them document it. So we have a schedule change request, and it is something that I'll show it to you. It's nothing fancy at all. And before you ask me about these next couple of things I'm going to show you, this actually is part of that 12-week culture turnaround, and the documents are in there. This is one I can't share with you as far as give you the file because, they're in a paid program, but you can easily make up what I have. It's not fancy. You can make this up. So when they say, I'm getting too many hours or I'm not getting enough hours, then that's called a schedule change request. Now, this was easier to do when we were in person because I really like doing it in person, but it can be done on, electronic form as well. But I do believe you need to have some kind of face-to-face interaction, whether like us being remote, it might have to be just via, FaceTime or something. But you bring them in, and this is the way I handle it. I'm like, in fact, I'll tell you a story of exactly what happened with a team. I can't remember if they started with, I'm not getting enough hours or I'm getting too many. We'll say they started with, I'm not getting enough hours. So I remember when Janice, the office manager, told me about it, and she was like, they never want to take extra houses. They, basically are sending mixed messages. They say, yeah, we're available full time, but then when she tries to add anything on last minute, they can't take it. So what we did is when Janice is sitting here telling me it's mixed messages, that's kind of when this whole idea was born. I brought them both in and I said, okay, so my understanding is we're not giving you enough hours. And they're like, yeah, we need more hours. We need to make more money. And I'm like, okay, all right, I get it. And you know what? We love that because then that means you're available for more hours. Was my understanding you were available for full time. But from what I've been hearing from Janice, you're not really available to take these last minute jobs or something that even gets added the day before because you've made plans. And so that's a big reason you're not getting these hours. So we're both clear. Let's write down how many hours you're wanting and the shift that you're available. So I had a form that just basically says their name, the date. I am requesting to work a minimum of this many hours, and I'm available from this and this time. And then they sign it. And then, sometimes we can't do that. Like, especially like if they're saying, I'm working full time, but I want to go to off at 2 p.m. all the time. Again, if it's a good employee, we're going to try to do that. That is one of the benefits for working for us, is that we're going to be ultra flexible if we can. But, we're going to tell them, hey, we can't do this overnight. So give us this time period to make it happen, and we're going to try to make it happen. But the key component is that it's in writing, and it will help hold you accountable. And it also holds them accountable, because then this is what happened with this team. Janice started filling them up just like she was supposed to. And, if they tried to turn something down, she's like, no, you had said that you're available from this time to this time. I've got the job. I'm putting the job on there, and so forth. So they come in, and this usually occurred on staff meeting days, and I was there. They came in, and they were kind of chuckling about it, but they were like, okay, it's too many hours. We're too tired. We're too whatever. And I'm like, okay, so you're wanting to change your schedule? And they're like, yeah, we really want to just get off by whatever time. Let's say 3. So we go back to the office. We sit down, me, Janice, and the team. We sit down, and I take the paper that they had and say, all right, so this is the paper that you filled out and signed on this date saying you wanted full-time hours. But now you don't want full-time hours, right? Okay. So about how many hours a week are you wanting? All right. So that means you would pretty much be available from 8:30 to, let's say, 3. And say, so that means that you are dropping your availability 10 hours a week. So I just want to make sure you understand that that means that you're going to lose a potential, depending on what they're paid an hour, $130 a week, etc. And we write that down on that paper. There's a spot that says it will reduce my gross pay to such and such maximum. Okay? All of this is for accountability purposes. You are not allowing them to just say, hey, I want this. Hey, I want this. You're letting them say it, but then you're saying, all right, I want to document this. And so you probably know what's coming. They came back. I don't remember if it was the next staff meeting or 2 months or whatever. They came back, and they were literally laughing and going, all right, we'll sign your paper. We promise this is the last time. We have to have more hours. Or it was the other way around. I can't remember. But we went back, went through the same motions, and that was that. That was, a couple of years ago. We don't hear that anymore. It did turn out that actually they were working together, but one of them wanted longer hours and one of them didn't. So they ended up splitting up, and they're good friends, very good friends, but they ended up splitting up, and that really did solve some of the schedule issues that we were having. But it also made them identify the problem too. So we could have just let them verbally say, hey, I want more hours. And then be very frustrated when they wouldn't take on those hours. It is so much better when it's something like that to be able to pull out your piece of paper and to be able to say, no, 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 this is what you told us. And I always kind of make light of it, going, all right, I'm really confused because on this date you said you wanted this. And now, am I hearing you right? You want, and start writing it out and so forth. And when you do that, they can kind of see the comedy in what they're asking of you, and it helps them take the responsibility. Because, like I say, the third time they came back, they were like, all right, I'm signing that paper. I know what's coming, and I promise this is it. And it was. So it is probably longer, more tedious than what you guys do. But if you want to quit being angry and frustrated and shift the responsibility from you taking it all, I got all the responsibility to change their schedule and they don't really mean it and that kind of thing, put it on their plate and you will see a difference. Now, had they not been great employees and had they been a toxic employee that was barking these things to me, then I would have done the same thing, but the difference would be in the reaction. So that toxic employee, they would have filled out the papers. The next time they would have come in and been like, you're giving me too many hours, da, 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 da. And when I would slide the paper over that you wanted this, then they will not take on the responsibility, even though it's in writing. They'll be like, no, I don't want that, so forth. And so then you're shifting more towards a disciplinary process, but you've got documentation that they did ask for that. And now you can be writing up that the employee wants this, they're not taking the job, this is what they said they were available for. So you've got all kinds of documentation that you can use. So you see, I'll work with the people that have a great attitude, they're just sometimes wishy-washy, versus the toxic employee that we're really in a disciplinary process. So I hope that helps. Attitude things are hard to make concrete, but you just have to know if you're dealing with somebody who is entitled and toxic or somebody who just isn't clearly defining actually what they want, and you're going to help them figure out what they want in that case. Okay, thank you.